Yeah, so these videos are going to be a little bit more casual, just YouTuber talking to the camera style. And this first one, I wanted to tell you something very important about myself. I am cursed. And I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video that my curse has personally affected you in some way. For that, I am sorry. But at the same time, I can't really control the thing, so it's out of my hands. I'm just living with it, right? My curse is that all of the celebrities that I really like turn out to be terrible people. I mean, just the worst people. And I know there's a lot of that going around lately. You know, you may think, oh, you're overreacting, man. Every celebrity has a little bit of baggage, right? But for me, it feels like really personal. Because it started back in childhood. You know, everybody asks you, who's your hero when you're growing up? And the answer that I picked was Sammy Sosa. And for those who don't know Sammy Sosa, I'm obviously a Cubs fan. He was the right fielder for the Cubs when I was growing up. And he was famous for hitting a lot of home runs, right? He hit tons of home runs every season. And as I grew up, I found out that he, used cork bats and probably took steroids. And then he kind of had this skin condition where he kind of had to withdraw himself from the public eye for a while, and then I think he got in some money trouble. Sammy Sosa could be doing better these days. We'll just put it like that. So that was like the first celebrity that I really looked up to, right? Was this baseball player. But if you look in the more modern day here, you know, if you even rewind 10 years ago, right, and you were to sit me down and ask me, hey, Paul, who are your 3 favorite stand-up comedians? I'd be like, oh man, that's easy. Bill Cosby, Louis C.K., and Dave Chappelle, in that order, right? And that didn't age well. Dave Chappelle isn't that bad these days, but just for the love of God, stop talking about trans people. Just stop talking about them. Period. It'll make everybody happier. Anyway, beyond that, if you would ask me, oh, who are your favorite musical artists? I'd be like, oh, that's easy. Kanye West. And you know who doesn't get enough credit? P. Diddy, right? I know he doesn't have that many hits by himself, but he's responsible for basically bringing up the entirety of New York hip-hop. Why doesn't he get more credit? Is something that I used to unironically say out loud to people. If you'd ask me what my favorite TV show was, I'd be like, Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland is a genius. If you would ask me who my favorite actor at the time was, I'd be like, oh, Kevin Spacey. I think it's awesome how he made the transition from film over to television. Now he's bringing prestige to a whole new media. If you would ask me if you could meet any one person in the world and sit down and have a conversation with them, who would it be? I would have said Bill Clinton. Because, you know, he was an American president and he seems like a really interesting guy and he helped stop a genocide that one time. He did kind of help stop a genocide at the UN that one time. That's still a good thing. But, you know? And on the one hand, I can't really, blame myself for liking these people's bodies of work without really knowing them personally, right? I was ignorant to the situation. Ignorance is bliss and all of that. But, on the other hand, it's every single person who's ever been my favorite of something has turned out not just to be, a jerk or a bad person, but, a monster or a Nazi or somebody who needs to be put on some form of a registry. And at a certain point you start wondering about yourself and why you're so interested with those sorts of people, right? And I'm not trying to implicate myself or nothing, but I just had to talk about it because, I'm launching this YouTube channel. This is one of the first videos that I'm going to put up on there. And I wanted to maybe talk about music. I really like making music. Check out Fireproof Productions. And so I thought, maybe I could talk about some music stuff. If I were to make a video talking about a musician, who would it be? And the first name that popped in my mind, I'm like, Jay-Z. He's the greatest rapper alive, and his music basically got me into hip-hop. The Black Album is probably my favorite album of all time. And they haven't gotten him yet. And, I'm not even going to talk about the details of the case. I'm not even gonna talk about it. But they haven't gotten him yet. But I'm cursed, y'all. Just statistically, it doesn't look great. What can we take away from all of this, right? Besides the fact that I need to have a better taste in entertainers, what can we take away from all this? Let's look to the future, right? I want to try and use this curse for good. So, Josh Johnson, Timothy Chalamet, JPEG Mafia. I don't know what you guys are up to, but I know y'all are talented as hell. Which means that you're probably up to something. I got my eye on you, little Timmy. I got my eye on you. Alright, here are my dirty jokes about quantum physics so that you can feel smart and stupid at the same time. Perhaps the most popular idea in quantum physics is the idea of Schrodinger's cat. If you don't know, there's a cat inside of a box, and the box is completely sealed, so without being able to look at it, you don't know whether or not the cat is dead or alive, right? This is a very simplified version of the idea that a light particle, right, until somebody observes it, until somebody tries to record its data, it can act as both like a wave and a straight line, a laser, right? And so if you kind of expand upon that idea, there's that age-old question, does the universe exist if I'm not looking at it, right? And the answer is kind of no, right? Things theoretically don't take a physical shape because the light bouncing off of it doesn't choose what form it's going to take until somebody observes it. So until somebody looks at something, it could theoretically look like anything. And that's why I never feel bad when I stare at a woman's breasts, right? Because before I looked at them, theoretically they didn't exist. They could have been just light particles all over the place. And I think that we can all agree that a world with more boobies in it is just a better world. That's the world that I want to live in. I hope it's a world that you want to join me in. So I guess you're welcome, is what I'd say. For what I'm doing to bring those into the world. Another popular idea from quantum mechanics is actually from the theory of relativity, and that is the faster something is moving, the slower time moves around it. Christopher Nolan's Interstellar just had its anniversary not too long ago, if you've seen that movie. So the idea is, if you're traveling so fast, the time around you will slow down, and that's why I'm trying to perfect having sex at light speed, because then, even though I can only last a couple of seconds, the girl will be like, oh man, that's it. I could turn and be like, girl, relatively speaking, we've been having sex for a decade. Literally a whole presidential administration has gone by since we started, so calm down, and once again, you're welcome. Finally, there's this idea called time simultaneity, right? Which basically means that the present is the future, is the past, and all time is actually happening at the same time. We're just chronological beings who can only view things one after another. If you've ever read the book Slaughterhouse-Five, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. But with the idea of time simultaneity, if you take that a step further, it kind of undoes the idea of an afterlife, right? Because there is no after our life. Our life is always happening and has always happened and will always happen. So in a way, every single moment that you're living, you are effectively creating your own heaven and hell, because you're trapping your existence inside of a moment that will exist perpetually beyond your consciousness, right? And so with all of that confusing stuff being said, I would now like to say the word boner 50 times in a row. Ready? Boner, 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 boner. And I'll see you in hell. Okay. I'm going to say this as politely as I possibly can. If you don't believe in ghosts, you're fucking stupid. Ooh, you're dumb. Ooh, you're dumb. What? Are you kidding me? Of course they're real. Of course ghosts are real. Are you fucking dumb? Just taking a step back here, right? Just looking at it big picture. Literally every single human civilization in history, since like the beginning of recorded history, has had some version of ghost stories. They've had some version of, oh man, we thought that thing was dead, but oh, look at that, maybe there's something else beyond it. Every single civilization has had some version of that. That would be equivalent to like every single human civilization knowing the song Bad Guy by Billie Eilish. I'm the bad guy. Duh. That's like every single person throughout any time. The tribes in the jungles. We have a Christian choir version with Handel, over in whatever century Handel was alive. We have people over in Japan who are on an island for most of their existence, cut off from the outside world, and they're singing Bad Guy. And you have all of these documented cases of people singing Bad Guy by Billie Eilish, and then somebody comes up to you and goes, yeah, but does Billie Eilish really exist? Yes! Duh! You idiot. There's so many cases of people singing Billie Eilish's Bad Guy. How can you not see it? Let's set all of that aside, right? Let's set all of that aside. Even if you don't really believe in ghosts, even if you're still kind of on the fence, right? To me, ghosts are a lot like global warming. What's the worst case scenario if I believe in global warming, but it doesn't exist, right? Because some people think that it doesn't. Worst case scenario, I inconvenience myself a little bit. You know, maybe I buy an electric car when I really could have always bought a gas car. Maybe I turn off the lights when I could have left them on. You know, small inconveniences, and maybe I look a little bit silly. What's the worst case scenario if global warming does exist, but I'm wrong? The entire planet bursts into a ball of flames that lasts forever and kills off all of human civilization. Even if it's not real, maybe just turn off the lights. The same logic goes for ghosts. What happens if I believe in ghosts, but I'm wrong? Maybe I inconvenience myself a little bit. Maybe I burn sage in a room that really didn't need sage burned in it. Maybe I leave the lights on, flying directly in the face of the global warming people. But maybe I leave a light on or two just in case, so that, you know, the areas aren't too dark and I can see if there's anybody hiding in the corner all spooky. So again, worst case scenario, small inconveniences, I look a little silly. What's the worst case scenario if ghosts are real? Eternal damnation. It's worse than global warming. That shit lasts forever, ever. It's worse than death, my dude. Why even chance it? P.S. If you ever bring a Ouija board around me, fuck yourself. Go to hell. Get that away from me. I'd rather play Russian roulette. At least it stops at death there. In conclusion, I just wanted to say that yes, this video about ghosts was a secret way to get my political agenda across. Yeah, global warming is real. I'm a liberal cuck. Ah! So, if you're watching this video, it means that you survived the pandemic of 2020. Or it means that you're a ghost with access to the internet. See my last video for my opinion on ghosts. Or it means that you're watching this video some point in the far future and you read about the years 2020 to 2025 in a history book and you went, what? That's crazy. There's no way that all that stuff happened. And now you're going back to old internet archives to try and learn more about it. Yeah, it really was that fucked up. Regardless, if you're watching this video in the present day and you're not a ghost, that means you survived the pandemic of 2020. And for those of us who are adults, it means one other indisputable fact. During that period, you watched pornography. During 2020, you watched porn, and you watched a lot of it. It's not a question, it's a fact. Pornhub released the numbers. All the websites released the numbers to brag about it. They were like, look at all of the porn that people watched. In a way, those websites are the only reason that our country didn't collapse. Imagine it. Imagine that period in your life if you did not have Pornhub, Xvideos, RedTube. Imagine it. So again, statistically, I know for a fact that you watched porn. I did too. Lots of it. We don't need to be ashamed about it. It was a once-in-a-generation hall pass where you could just go for it. And I gotta say, the things that stuck with me from that viewing experience are all the things that I noticed about pornography that had absolutely nothing to do with sex, right? It was all of the things surrounding the act. You know what I mean? For example, did you ever notice how many amateur porn videos have a smoke detector with a low battery in it? Like, there are just so many different videos where the girl's, coming up and getting into it, and it's like, yeah, daddy, I want to suck your beep. And then the alarm beeps. Yeah, give it to me like a beep. And I had really good headphones at the time. And so there were a number of points where I'd be, getting into it, and then I'd hear a beep. And I'd be like, is that coming from the video or is that coming from my hallway? Is my smoke detector low on battery? It happened at least twice where I had to stop, take out the headphones, put on pants, go out into the hallway, and wait for a significant period of time just to know 100% whether or not it was my smoke alarm or theirs. So to all of you amateur content creators out there, take my advice. If there's something in your adult video that makes the person watching it get their clothes on and leave the room, perhaps your video isn't accomplishing what you want it to. Just check your smoke detectors before you start shooting. Another thing that I noticed, and this is mostly for the ladies, although I imagine gay porn actors, male gay porn actors have to do this too, to a certain extent. It's what I call the pose, right? And everybody knows what the pose is. It's the position that the girl gets into at the end of the video, on their knees, head back. The thing that I noticed about it, though, and the thing that was so impressive to me, and it has to be a skill, right, is that the actresses can go from gymnastic-like positions, head, feet over their head, hands behind their back, and then the guy goes, oh, I'm ready, and then boom, boom, they just engage, and they're there. And I don't know if you've actually tried, if you're a straight man like me and you have never tried to do this, right? Give it a shot. Just imagine you're like here, right? Imagine you're like here and you've been at it for like half an hour, and then suddenly the dude's like, oh, I'm ready, and you have to that wasn't sexy, Keep an eye out for it, especially some of the old school actresses. Jenna Hayes, she is a gymnast, essentially. Anyway, I just wanted to give that shout out because these actresses are essentially athletes, in a way, being able to do that. Last thing I want to talk about, they have all the different porn categories where they kind of sort the videos into different categories and stuff. And one of the categories is girls with braces, the braces on people's teeth. And it's not a great look for everybody, but some of the girls look good with dental work. What can I say? The thing that I noticed, though, is that there are some girls on there who have, like, large bodies of work. Not like large bodies of work, but like a large volume of videos, on their channels. Just years and years and years worth of porn videos. And they have those braces on through, like, all of that time. And if you watch enough of those videos, you can't help but think, damn, girl, what is the situation with your teeth? What did they look like before we started filming? Seriously, your mouth must have been fucked. And not in the way that I normally associate with porn stars. Anyway, I'm just always very happy whenever I see a porn actress get their braces off, because I remember when I had mine, my favorite food in the world was peanuts, in the shell peanuts, and I couldn't eat those. And I just hope that those actresses get to eat anything that they want with their braces off. Not like that. You know what I mean? So today I want to talk about bad jokes, right? And I'm not talking about jokes that aren't funny. I'm talking about jokes that we all sort of know that we shouldn't be telling anymore. My last name is Twarowski. The jokes I'm talking about, how many Polish people does it take to change a light bulb? Those old ones that are like a little bit racist and outdated. Even, dumb blonde jokes. I used to tell those growing up. Those are a little bit out of fashion. Just because somebody has blonde hair, they're dumb, right? People don't really like those jokes anymore. And on the one hand, totally agree with it. You don't want to have other people feel bad just so you can tell a dumb little joke, right? That it's not worth it. On the other hand, as a comedian and as somebody who's literally studied humor, it's a little bit of a shame. It's a little bit of a shame just because the structure of some of those jokes are really solid. They're really good setups for jokes. They're good setups for punchlines. Just structurally as a joke, they've stood the test of time. And so it's a little bit of a shame to see those joke structures go away. And I think the main reason that those jokes have died off and why they need to be left in the past is because more often than not, it was people like me telling those jokes. A white man, a straight presenting white man. And so historically it was people like me kind of kicking down on other people for reasons that weren't just about the jokes, right? They were more about causing pain sometimes than they were about causing joy. And so because it was traditionally white men telling those jokes, there weren't really a lot of those sorts of jokes about white men. There wasn't anybody really kicking back down on them to make it even. Well, I figured in the spirit of humor and in the spirit of trying to keep those old joke structures alive, it was about time that we had some white man jokes. And I can tell them because they're my people. Here we go. How many white men does it take to screw in a light bulb? 3. One to hire a woman to do it, a second one to sexually harass that woman, and then a third one to be a lawyer in the case that covers it all up. What's the difference between a white man and a chimpanzee? The chimpanzee looks better with dreadlocks. What's the easiest way to kill a white man? Sprinkle cayenne pepper on all of his food. He'll starve to death. What's black and white and blue all over? A white man dressing as Snoop Dogg for Halloween. What's white and black and blue and red all over? That same man if he ever actually went to Compton. 2 white guys are sitting at a bar having a good time, having some drinks, right? When a black man walks in, the 2 white guys see him and they kind of, quiet down a little bit. They're looking at him. Black guy sits down at the bar. Bartender walks over and says, "Hello, sir. How may I help you?" Black guy goes, "Oh, I don't know. I'll have whatever those 2 gentlemen are having." And the bartender goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We don't serve penis envy." That was my favorite one. And this last one isn't a joke so much as it is a safety tip, right? If you're ever walking into a dark room and you're wondering if there are any white men hiding in there somewhere, all you have to do is take a step forward and clearly sing "Sweet Caroline." And then if you hear anybody under their breath go, "Ba, ba, ba," then yeah, you should go ahead and get out of there. I remember exactly where I was when I heard the news that Kobe Bryant had died. I was up in Boulder, Colorado, and at the time I was going to different events, setting up a table and being like, "Hey, we'll help replace your windows. Come sign up for information." Different fairs and festivals and stuff like that. It was my lunch break, and I had walked down the road to this local tavern because I just wanted some good pub food, and they sold candied bacon, which is just strips of bacon covered in brown sugar, basically. So I was chewing on candied bacon at a bar in Boulder, Colorado, when I look up at the bartender, and I go, "How's your day going?" Right? And he goes, "Honestly, terrible." I go, "Why?" He said, "Kobe Bryant died." And like everybody, I was shocked. I was like, "What? How? What happened?" And the bartender said, "He died in a helicopter crash." And I went, "Oh, that makes sense." And that's because helicopters are the single stupidest human invention of all time. They are the worst vehicle to ever be produced. Helicopters are death traps. Yes, I appreciate Kobe Bryant. Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. But helicopters are death traps. This is a PSA. Helicopters, right, crash 60% more than similarly sized vehicles, right? 60% more often. If you are in the class, right, and everybody in the class takes a test, and the teacher curves the test, right, so that everybody else's baseline is 100%, right, and you're still failing at a 60% rate, you're the dumb one. You're the dumb one. And I'm not saying that kids failing at tests don't deserve help or don't deserve love, but what I'm saying is that maybe that kid, you don't put them in charge of flying superstars around like NBA legend Kobe Bryant, right? Seriously, Google the statistics on it. It's maddening. And I know that Hollywood isn't real life, but it says something about it when every single helicopter in a Hollywood movie ends up either on fire or on the ground. Legitimately, name one movie where a helicopter is featured as like the primary mode of transportation where that helicopter does not crash. And I'm not talking about, oh, there was a helicopter in the background of that one shot for like 5 seconds. I'm talking about where like our main heroes get on some form of a helicopter. Name one film where a helicopter doesn't crash in that scenario. I went out looking for it, right? I still can't find one. I even went so far as to look at the movie Planes, right? You know, Planes, that 3D bastardized offshoot of the Cars franchise, but they're planes. I looked at that one because I saw that there was a helicopter character in that movie, and I'm like, surely in the children's film, they don't crash the helicopter. I'm pretty darn sure they crashed the helicopter in that movie. I didn't like spend money to rent the movie and watch it, but I'm pretty sure I found a YouTube clip where the helicopter in that movie crashes. It's a universal truth. Here's the part that really gets to me. Right? Is that Kobe Bryant took the helicopter, right, up through the mountains of Calabasas. But then the helicopter goes down in the middle of the woods, right? And the people who need to get there to the recovery site realize that it's going to take too long to get up there by driving. And so, do you know how they got up to the helicopter crash site? With a second goddamn helicopter. Did you not learn your lesson? That's like going to try and recover the Titanic with an exact replica of the Titanic. But that wasn't even the end of it. right? That wasn't even the end of it. Because again, I'm in that bar in Boulder, Colorado, and the bartender has turned the TV over to Sports Center coverage. Of course, they got all of the memoriams and they got all of the interviews. Oh, I miss Kobe. He was such a great man. But as they're talking about Kobe Bryant and his death, they go, all right, and now we're going to bring you live footage from the Staples Center where a crowd has gathered to remember Kobe. And they cut to this aerial shot of all the people gathered outside of the Staples Center. Do you know how they got that aerial shot? Do you know what vehicle they used to get that shot? A goddamn helicopter. What is wrong with you people? Wait a day, for Christ's sake. That would be like people covering the death of Steve Irwin while standing directly next to a Stingray tank. Except that they totally did that shit too. I definitely remember that from my childhood. I was like, what is wrong with people? So yeah, a lot of people learned a lot of different lessons from Kobe's life and his early passing. And I guess the lesson that I learned and the lesson that I want to pass along. Sometimes you can just take the bus, you know? So, I think something that we all know deep down is that all of our electronic devices are listening to us at all times. Whatever device you're watching this video on, whether it be your phone or a laptop or that new Elon Musk neural chip that everybody's trying out these days, it's listening to you and it's gathering information for the algorithm. All hail the algorithm. May it lead us to the things that we do not know we want ourselves. Oh, hail the point being that the algorithm is always collecting data on you so that it can do targeted advertising, right? So that it can pick out what ads are more likely to sway you into buying something and put it in front of your face. And on the one hand, you know, I've accepted that that's just kind of become a part of everyday life. And on the other hand, I fucking hate it. So, you know, I've tried to come to terms with it in my own way. But there's another side to targeted ads that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And it's those times when they miss the target. Like, it's weird now because so many of the ads are for things that I'm usually interested in. The things that seem like they have nothing to do with me stand out like a sore thumb now. Like, the one example that I always remember is there was this one ad for PrEP medication, for HIV prevention, you know, and it had a bunch of drag queens and muscle men going, hey, did you know that you can get your HIV medication for free? Click the link. And I was like, oh, well, I'm glad that resource exists for people who need it, but I don't have HIV, and I'm kind of taking a moment for myself. You know, I'm kind of in a place where it's like, you gotta love yourself before you ask other people to love you. So, like, I'm not really looking for partners right now, so I don't need this service, but I'm glad that it exists. You know, you guys enjoy it. But then that ad just kept on popping up. I mean, it was like every single video that I would watch on YouTube, the pre-ad roll would be like, did you know that you can get your PrEP medication? Did you know you can get your PrEP medication for free? You can get this medication for free. Click the link. To the point where I started wondering to myself, do I have HIV? Does the algorithm know something about me that I don't? Because I'm like 99.9% sure I don't got it. The last STD panel was clean, but after a while, it stopped sounding like, hey, do you want this HIV medication? And it sounded like, hey, you, we have this HIV medication. Do you need it? It just started to feel like that after a while. Anyway, regardless of my own health status, knock on wood, I want to help some of you watching the video right now. And this next part isn't going to make a lot of sense at first, but I'll explain it afterwards, and some of you are going to thank me a lot, okay? Giant bad dragon dildos. 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 Okay, so I want you to play that clip around as many electronic devices as you have if you've ever been curious about giant dildos, but you've never wanted to search for it yourself. Because hopefully that sound clip of me saying giant bad dragon dildos will trigger your algorithm, and it will just put it in front of your face. And then if you have, say, a more judgmental partner, or maybe somebody that you share a computer with who isn't as sexually open-minded, and they see, oh, there's an ad for a giant bad dragon dildo. Where did this come from? Did you look this up? You can say, no, I didn't. It was that damn YouTube comedian. I just like his other videos, but that one video where he kept saying giant bad dragon dildos must have triggered my algorithm. You're welcome. You're so, so welcome. Full disclosure, I did originally write this joke because I was doing a lot of open mics downtown and I wanted to try to have a chance to get laid. But the more I told this joke, the more it just kind of became something that I inherently believe. And that is, women should get paid more than men. Period. End of sentence. If a woman is doing the same job as a man and that man is getting paid $1, then the woman should probably get paid like $1.25 for doing the same job. And that's not because women are inherently better at the job or because men deserve to be punished in some way. It's just because women have to pay for so much stupid bullshit that men never ever have to even think about. The ladies in the audience are yelling, pink tax? Yeah, the pink tax. The first time that I really became aware of it was I was dating this woman. She was coming into town. You know, she kind of lived in a different city and she was coming into town for the weekend and had to drive a ways. And on the way up, she texted me and said, hey, I remembered everything except for my makeup bag, but we're just staying home all weekend. I don't really need a bunch of makeup. Could you please get me an eyebrow pencil, though? I could really use an eyebrow pencil. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, babe, sure, I'll get you a pencil. What does that cost? Like 50 cents? Sure, I got that for you. And then I went across the street to the grocery store, and they didn't sell single eyebrow pencils. The cheapest option that I could get was a 2-pack of eyebrow pencils for $5. $5 for 2 pencils that are like not even the size of a writing utensil. $5 for 2 of them. I'm like, Jesus, why do you even need 2? 1 for each eyebrow? Can you use a Crayola colored pencil? I got like 20 of those in a drawer. So that's when I first really started noticing it, that, you know, somebody that I really cared for would have to pay $5 every time they wanted to scribble on their eyebrows. That's That's a heck of a cost. Not to say that she didn't look beautiful and it wasn't worth it, but it was a cost. And that's when you start noticing other things, like fellas, tell me seriously, tell me honest, when's the last time that you had an extra $200 to $300 in your pocket? You bet something and it came in good, your investment came in that you weren't expecting, right? You have an extra $200 to $300 in your pocket. And you go, wow, I'm going to use this money and I'm going to buy myself something nice. What am I going to buy? I know. I'm going to buy myself new underwear. I'm going to buy 2, maybe 3 pairs. One that just is for me, one that's for my partner, and then if I can afford it, one that makes it so that I can go jogging in the winter without my chest bleeding. I don't know if there is a man in the history of men that has ever spent more than $50 on a pair of underwear. And if you're that person, if you're the person who regularly spends a whole bill on a pair of underwear, your ball sack must be in heaven, bro. It must feel like your testicles are floating on a cloud. I've been rocking the same pair of Hanes Value Pack boxers that I bought from Kohl's probably like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I bet 95% of you are like me, or you're like me on other days and just freeballing it. Regardless, just a friendly tip. Fellas, next time your lady comes out in a nice frilly set of underwear trying to look good, pay fucking attention. Lastly, and this one's a huge one, how the hell do we get away with charging women for tampons? What sort of fucking sadistic practice is that? Fellas, just imagine this scenario. I just want you to try to practice empathy with me here, right? Just imagine this scenario. You've just gotten into high school, right? You're going out, you're trying to make new friends, you're discovering new things about yourself and about life. And then one day, out of nowhere, you start to bleed uncontrollably from your asshole. A river of blood down your leg. Nobody warned you it was coming. Nobody told you what to do about it. You're freaking out. You're walking down the street when it happens, so you have no idea what's going on. And so you run into the nearest convenience store that you can find. You find an adult, and you go, hey, help. I'm bleeding. It hurts, and I am bleeding from my asshole. And the adult that you're asking for help looks you in the eyes and goes, yeah, okay, that'll be $15. Well, $20 if you want the nice pads that make it so that you can wear white pants in the summer. What? Do you know how absolutely furious I would be? I can't control that. I can't control this thing. And it's not like I'll just slap a cheap bandage on it. Like, have you checked the price tag on a value pack of tampons lately? That shit adds up. And they're not all the same. You know, the way that I try to explain it to guys is that I think most guys think of it like it's a Band-Aid. Like, oh, something's bleeding, stick a Band-Aid on it, it'll be fine. Now, that Band-Aid has to, like, move. You know what I mean? It has to move and be comfortable and not destroy your clothes. The fact that we charge people for that, just exorbitant amounts of money every single month, sometimes twice a month if you're stressed, Jesus. And I've talked to guys about this before, and they've come back at me. They're like, yeah, okay, women need to pay for tampons, but guys, we gotta pay for stuff too. Like, we gotta pay for toilet paper. Which brings me to my next issue. How the fuck are we as Americans still paying for toilet paper? That's crazy. Ladies, this is how we backdoor the issue. If we backdoor it and we come to the guys and we're like, hey guys, free toilet paper for everybody, right? Not like the gushy, Cottonelle Bear, plump on your ass stuff. No. we just have a government subsidy for like 1 to 1.5 ply toilet paper for everybody who needs it. We start off there so that imagine all of the money that young people and families would save if they just didn't have to buy toilet paper. And then we kind of like scoot toilet paper over to Kleenex, and then we scoot Kleenex over to tampons, and then we scoot tampons over to abortion rights. That's right, this is another political video. I'm a liberal cuck. So I've already made my opinions on ghosts perfectly known. Go ahead and see the other video on it. And part of that is because I used to give ghost story tours in the city of Denver. I used to get on a bus with people and we drive to different haunted locations, and I would tell them the history of those locations. And there is one ghost story that I remember very well. The other ones got a little bit foggy because I haven't told them for several years, but this one story I remember really well because a lot of it is just historical fact and it's crazy. The other parts of it are kind of embellished, but let me tell you the story. You'll know what I'm talking about. So back in the 1860s in Denver, Colorado, you know, that was a time when the town was growing and booming and building a lot of things, and people were going up into the mountains to look for gold and other resources, right? And there was this one path that people would go up on into the mountains, and they kept finding dead bodies littered along the path. And while it wasn't uncommon for people to die on the frontier, right, these bodies all had their chests carved open and the hearts taken out. People had no idea who was doing it for a while. You know, was it bandits? Was it Native Americans? Was it ghosts? Who knows? But then eventually one person escapes an attack and runs back to town and goes, I know who's been doing it. I know who's been leaving all these bodies with the chest cut open. It's the Espinoza brothers. The Espinoza brothers are doing it. Sure enough, there were two brothers whose first name I forget, but their last names are Espinoza, and they had been living in the territory around the time of the Spanish-American War, and their entire family got wiped out during the war. They kind of retreated back up into the mountains and found a way to live up there by themselves for a while. And then allegedly, one night, a vision of the Virgin Mary came down to them, and she said, bring me the hearts of 100 gringos, and I will let your family's souls into heaven. Who knows if Mary actually knew the word gringos, but that's just how the legend goes. And so people are terrified. You know, there are these two murderers, and they had racked up a body count. It was like dozens of people. And so the governor at the time, a man named John Evans, said, you know what? I'm going to make sure that the people of Colorado are safe. I'm going to go ahead and stop these brothers. And so he goes out and he hires the best bounty hunter at the time, a man by the name of Tom Tobin. So John Evans hires Tom Tobin. He's like, go kill those Espinoza brothers. I'll pay whatever you want. You know, just make sure that my people are safe. And it takes him a while, right? But Tom Tobin, true to his reputation, goes up into the mountains, manages to track the brothers down, shoots them from long distance, shoots them dead, kills them. But this is back in the days before, you know, cell phones and social medias or even cameras for that matter, you know, at least personal ones. And so he couldn't just snap a picture of the bodies or anything like that. He was up in the mountains, right? He couldn't just take two full-grown men and put them on the back of his horse and drag them all the way back to civilization. That'd be dangerous for him and his horse. So in order to prove that he had killed these two brothers, Tom Tobin took a saw and cut off both of the Espinoza brothers' heads. He took the heads and he took them to the nearest town where he found a doctor. And he convinced the doctor to put the heads in jars filled with a formaldehyde-like substance so that they wouldn't decay. And so Tobin takes these 2 jars and heads back to Governor John Evans, and he puts them on the desk and says, "Job's done." Governor John Evans was so proud of this, right? He was so proud of the fact that he was the one to stop this crime wave and to stop all of these people from getting murdered. You know, he was the politician who went out and got the bounty hunter. He wanted the credit for it. And so he kept the heads. And allegedly, whenever he wanted to intimidate his political opponents, he would pull the 2 heads out and place them on his desk so that they would be looking at whoever was sitting across from him. So imagine you're going in for budget negotiations and you just got 2 heads like staring at you. Incidentally, John Evans, the governor at the time, was originally famous for founding a number of different hospitals and is actually famous for helping develop most modern-day gynecological equipment. So yeah, next time you ladies go for a checkup, just remember, this next part of the story is where a lot of the embellishments might have happened, right? I can't quite find as much historical proof for this part of it. But allegedly, right, John Evans eventually leaves office, and he leaves a lot of his personal affects behind in a storage closet, including these 2 heads, right? And this is back in the day before cataloging, where historians tried to keep every little piece of everything that every government official touches preserved for future generations. So all of John Evans' stuff just kind of gets pushed into a back room. And it stays there for a while until a historian who allegedly was named Will Ferrell, not the Step Brothers guy, but apparently his name was Will Ferrell, was going through all of the old belongings, and he found these 2 jars and heads. And so he brings the jars to a city council meeting and goes, what am I supposed to do with these? And the city council goes, I don't know, put them in the tunnels underneath the Capitol building someplace dark so that we never see them again. And allegedly that's the last place where the heads went, because there are a system of tunnels underneath the state capitol building and the judicial building and all those really important government buildings for fire safety reasons. You know, if your building's on fire, you can go underground and go to a different building. They've been blocked off for decades at this point because they came up with better fire safety methods. But those tunnels do still exist. And so allegedly, several years ago, Will Ferrell carried 2 severed heads down underneath the state capitol building and hid them forever. Sounds like the setup to a joke, but it's actually the end of a story. Again, just going back to previous statements. What's the worst case scenario if you believe in ghosts but they don't exist? I'm a little bit nervous about going underneath the Denver State Capitol building, and maybe I won't go sneaking around in tunnels just in case there are severed heads down there. What happens if the heads do exist, but you don't believe in them, huh? Then you might get the ghost of gynecologist past coming to haunt you. That's what'll happen. So, I'm gonna make some other videos talking about music, talking about my opinions on different artists and different genres and stuff like that. But I kind of wanted this one to be a little bit separate because I wanted to address a sentiment that I hear from a lot of people, and it's something that I used to say all the time myself, and that is, I like every genre of music, except for country music. Don't love country. I hear you. I feel you. Because to me, there's just the 2 things about country that are inescapable. One is that every popular country artist seems to be addicted to the fiddle. I've never tried the fiddle myself, but apparently to country artists it is like heroin because they refuse to release popular country music without a in the background. It's not all country music, but you know what I'm saying. And the other part of it, which is a criticism that I still hold to it, is that you just don't really vibe with the lyrical content. It's the old stereotype. My beer, my pickup truck, my girl who has big knockers, and America. And there is a lot of music like that, you know, and I've tried really hard to get into country music a couple of times, but it seems like every country artist eventually goes down that road. Like the last time I tried, I had a very good friend and they recommend Tyler Childers, and they showed me some songs off of that one gospel themed album that he kind of did, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good sound, and I like the lyrical content. What else has he written? What's his most popular song? And I went over to Spotify, and it was either number 1 or number 2, but it was Feathered Indians, which is a song about how he leaves an imprint of a feathered Indian on the inside of a girl's thigh because his belt buckle has the face of a Native American on it. And I was like, there you are. There's country. There's the country that I know. And I'm not here to defend modern pop country, right? That's not why I'm here. I want to tell you that old country, and I mean like old country, and I mean like old country, is gangster as fuck, homie. Ooh, I'm talking about like those old, almost folk songs that like Johnny Cash kind of covered, and some of those, you know, older artists, a lot of them on like those really grainy sounding recordings because the vinyl hasn't held up all that well. Those country songs are different. Because modern country music, you know, you have that story that they tell. It's like, my girl left me, and she took the car, and she took the dog, and now I'm sad about it, and I don't know what to do about it. That's new country music. Old country music is like, yeah, I knew that woman was married, but I went into her house, I had sex with her, her husband walked in, I murdered that man in front of the woman, and that's why I can't go back to Louisiana. The famous Johnny Cash song, I killed a man in Reno just to watch him die. That's the energy of old country music. New country music, I got myself a new pickup truck. Old country music, I hopped on the back of this train because I needed to get out of Kentucky as soon as fucking possible. You don't know. You know, like, it's just a different energy. And the part that's so crazy to me about it, the part that's just next level crazy about old country music, is that if you go back and look at the history of some of those songs, a lot of those songs did come from like chain gangs. You know, they came from people outside all day who had been arrested for crimes, and so they were by the side of the road breaking rocks on a chain gang. And historically, a lot of those people were black. So you had a lot of black people on a chain gang singing about crimes that they had probably committed in real life, hence the chain gang. And then from that point, you probably had a prison guard somewhere along the line, a white prison guard who went, that's catchy right there, and then went home and is like, hey honey, I heard the catchiest song at work today when I was watching the chain gang out there. Fetch my banjo, let me do this real quick. I killed that girl in Louisiana and I can't go back for no bandana. Oh wow, that's good. You know what that needs? A fiddle. If we added a fiddle to it. And that's kind of where country music came from. And so whenever I see, you know, modern country, pop country artists today, I just have to smile and laugh thinking about where the music they're singing came from. And I guess the message that I have to leave you with is give black people credit for the things that they create. Yeah, it's another political video. I'm such a liberal cock.